Hello, happy Wednesday. Welcome to the third in our series on recreational F&I success. Today, we're going to be talking about the F&I profit. I'm Merle Shaw, the Chief Operating Officer for Dealer Profit Services and the moderator for this series of webinars. Thanks very much for joining us. As always, this will be recorded and will be available after this is over. And also you have the ability to enter questions, which we will try to address when we get to our question and answer session. So we follow a standard format for these webinars. We start with our thought for the day. We talk a little about F&I success to remind everyone what that really looks like. We spend some time focused on the F&I process. We have a fantastic interview with a great expert today, Terry Shabesta, who I will introduce a little later. I will apologize in advance for a couple of technical difficulties, but Terry has delivered some fantastic content. A takeaway, Q&A, some final thoughts, and a little about our next webinar that's coming up in 2 weeks. So, success needs a process, and the process actually defines the success. I'm always a little amused by what Alice in Wonderland learned when she asked, "Which way should I go from here?" And that the cat replies, "That depends on where you want to go." Alice says, "I don't much care." Then it doesn't matter which way you go. Well, once you've defined success, once you've defined where you want to go, the path does matter. And that's what this process is all about. It's the path to F&I success. So just as a reminder, and these are things that we've talked about, what does F&I success looks like? Well, hopefully it continually looks like more profit tomorrow than you achieve today. So continual improvements. You know, when you hit your goals, move the goalposts. But our initial targets are 8% F&I profit on the amount financed, at least 4% F&I net profit on unit sales, at least a 65% penetration rate on protective product sales, and 100% turnover. So 100% of the customers see your finance manager, your delivery coordinator, your business manager, whatever you prefer to call them, 100% of the time, and they are presented with all of the relevant products 100% of the time. So those are your targets. Now, how do you get there? Well, let's look at some tips for your F&I process. And the first tip is that the F&I process begins much, much, much earlier than you might think. The F&I process actually starts at first contact. So what do we mean by that? Well, you know, when a customer is out shopping for a car, especially a franchise car, they expect that they're going to finance at the dealership. Every dealership offers financing and they know it. That's not necessarily a native assumption in the recreational world. Customers don't necessarily anticipate that they're going to be able to get financing. So from the very first time that customer sees you, whether it's driving by your store, whether it's a newspaper ad, whether it's a television ad, a radio ad, online, every place that customer can see you, you need to be making clear immediately that you have competitive financing available. Don't give your customers the opportunity to shop that financing before they get to you. Let them know that you're a one-stop shop and you can offer competitive financing. By doing that small step, you will tremendously improve your F&I success. The second tip, make the customer experience great. there are fantastic tools that allow a customer to get pre-qualified, even online, and to shop by payment. So what does that mean? It means that with just a name, address, and phone number, you are able to do what's called a soft credit pull. And that soft credit pull will identify what that customer qualifies for and where they should be looking in terms of what kind of units. And then the shop by payment technology, even better, allows the customer to define what payment range they would prefer to be in without limiting that customer to that payment range. So that shop by payment technology, which we will talk about later on, will show the customer inventory that's in their range, and that will also show up and down, or as I describe it, it puts an arrow in the center of the target, but it shows the rings around it. Now, all of this happens without impact on the customer's credit score. These soft pulls have no impact on the customer's credit score. And so you don't even need, unless there's a negative result, to let the customer know that you did it. So if the customer was online and pressed the shop by payment or the get pre-qualified button, you get all the information. So you're prepared. If a customer walks in without having done that, it's still a great idea to say, hey, Mr. Customer, in order for us to give you the best possible experience, can we just start out and get some basic information, your name, your address, your phone number, and go ahead and do your pre-qualification and your shop by payment. Now you're not going to try to convince that customer that this $100,000 unit is exactly right for them when they only qualify for a $50,000 unit. You can have that customer have a great experience and not end up disappointed by spending a lot of time and energy shopping for something that they can't get. The third tip, always talk payments, never talk prices right from the start. So what does that mean? If you have signs on your inventory that describes the amount that the customer is going to pay, put that in terms of payment. Don't put that in terms of price. Now, the only rules about this are you have to specify what the term and what your expected interest rate are, and those have to be reasonable. You're not allowed legally to take only the very top tier customer credit range and use that as the price. You have to, the payment. You have to use the average that most customers will qualify for. But you should always talk payments because that gets the customer in the mindset of thinking about financing, thinking about payments. And if they're a cash buyer, truly a cash buyer, then ultimately you'll get to the price. But you should never talk prices, always talk payments. Once the customer is in the hands of your sales team, they should be able to highlight protective products. And there are some great props out there. There's, fake spilled coffee, for instance, to demonstrate your interior, exterior protective products. There's great brochures and collateral that can be placed around in the boats or the RVs or whatever your units are. But all the salesperson wants to do is to tee up that customer for later success when they're talking to your business manager. So when a customer asks a salesperson about a particular protective product, what you need to have done is equip that salesperson with great stories in advance. So, for instance, a customer sees a sign that talks about, she sees the spilled coffee and says, so what's this interior, exterior product all about? Oh, it's a great product. Let me tell you, it saved It saved one of my customers a lot of money, and quite possibly it saved his marriage. That boat that they walked out of here with was brand new, and they went fishing. The guy hooked his vinyl seat with a fish hook, put a rip in it, and his wife was not at all pleased with him at that point. But because he had this protection, they came out, they repaired it to new, and it cost him nothing. Fantastic product. Same, have a story about breaking down out on the, someplace and having the people come to you to fix the engine or to fix the problem or to give you a tow. Have stories for those salespeople to tell, to highlight the benefits of the product without diving into features. And then, if the customer should say, well, so how much does that cost? First of all, the salesperson doesn't know because they don't know at that point in time what that customer qualifies for in terms of interest rate. So you don't talk about prices, you talk about payments, and they are not equipped to do that at that point. So the answer is, I'm really sorry, I just don't have access to those rate sheets, but I will make sure that our business manager goes over all that with you when you get to talk to them. Then there's the 100% turnover rule. Every customer, every time, sees the business manager. You never take a check on the sales floor. The customer pulls out a wad of $100 bills. They still have to see the business manager. That's the rule. And the best way to really set that up for great success is the second that customer begins to look at inventory, take a second and introduce them to the business manager and say, Mr. Customer, this is Bob. As soon as you picked out the unit that you're in love with, you're going to spend a few minutes with him going over the details of delivery and everything that we need to take care of. Now the customer knows from the outset that no matter what they're doing, they're going to spend some time with the business manager. Then finally, when the business manager gets that customer, there's a few rules that they have to follow. The first is the Hippocratic Oath of FNI, as I refer to it, which means first, do no harm. You never want to cost a sale. The second is aggressive and graceful in retreat. So what does that mean? It means you never get more than what you ask for the first time. So you want to ask for the maximum reserve. You want to ask for the maximum in protective product profit at the outset. And the way that discussion goes, again, never prices, always payments. Mr. Customer, congratulations, we've got you approved for a payment of $299 a month for 180 months. And that includes not only your unit, but that includes your engine warranty and the interior-exterior protective product. And it also includes GAP. Now, if the customer has that sharp intake of breath, the correct answer at that point is, well, let me see what I can do. That was just our first return. So give me a few minutes and let me see if we can do a little better for you. And then, and again, going back to 100% turnover, if that customer is paying cash, and I'll be talking about that more a little later on, it's still important that they get presented the protective products. And initially, it's a good idea to have those protective products presented in terms of payments because that may influence that customer to actually think about the finance side of things. When the conversation about protective products is done, they should always sign an optional protective product disclosure. That's a document that the customer signs that shows what products they've been presented, which ones they've chosen to accept, and which ones they've chosen to decline. Follow those 6 steps, and you're going to find yourself with a highly successful F&I story. So now, and again, there's a few little technical hiccups here, but Terry's got great information, and so without further ado, we'll get going. Well, I'm super excited to introduce Terry Shabesta as our guest expert for this webinar on the F&I process. Terry is an entrepreneur, a dynamic entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience in the automotive digital arena. In 1989, Terry opened Automobile Consumer Services, and that has been a trailblazer in technologies across the automotive digital space and power sport space, and we've used it with our marine dealers for rolling into the RVs. But it got super exciting in 2010 when Terry introduced a get pre-qualified technology in cooperation with TransUnion that allowed consumers and lenders to provide a soft pull, full credit file bureau to instantly pre-qualify the shoppers, and they didn't have to give up their social security number or date of birth, and there was no impact on their credit score. But that was a game changer. And then he changed the game again when he initiated and invented the shop by payment technology, which allows a shopper, a consumer, on the website to identify what their ideal payment is and have the soft credit pull, so that now automatically the dealer can tell what that customer is looking for, what they qualify for, and it's super powerful. And then just this year, ACS established True Payments, which is a financial technology company. So Terry's been an expert on live TV shows, including CNBC, Fox, Bloomberg TV. He's a media consultant for the Wall Street Journal, Business Week, Forbes, and others. Super knowledgeable guy. I'm really excited to have him give us a few minutes of his expertise today. So Terry, thanks very, very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Merrill. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We're chatting.
So let me start with this, this is going to be, I think, right up your alley. In our first webinar in this series, I was talking to John Hayman, who's a SVP at Medallion Bank, and he's president of the National Marine Lenders Association. And I asked him about what he saw as some of the most important things dealers could do to ensure a good experience for their customers. And he went right into one of the most important things dealers need to do is, from the outset, make sure that they're getting their customers into the unit that they can get. He said it doesn't do anybody any good to have someone fall in love with an $80,000 unit when they're only qualified for $35,000. So I'd like your just reaction to that, and talk a little about all the things you do to help us kind of solve that problem.
Right. Wow. That statement is absolutely 100% right on. And we see that in the industry. And I'll give you a personal example of that exact scenario. So as a leasing company, which we are, which is how we developed all this software, we actually built it for ourselves first, but we would all the time get customers excited on a particular vehicle they wanted to buy. Give you an example, Corvette. Guy would do all the research and looking around, found the perfect vet and was like all excited. And then when he would apply, couldn't get him done, couldn't get him approved. And right to your point, he should have been looking probably at a Camaro, not a Corvette. But he was all in on the Corvette. So setting that expectation up front is absolutely critical, because once we couldn't approve him for the Corvette, we lost him. He went on and because he was embarrassed or whatever, right? Mad, embarrassed, whatever the reason was, but we weren't going to get that deal. So he went on and bought, I don't know what he got. I'm sure he didn't get the Corvette, but that's the reason it's absolutely imperative to make sure we're setting that exact expectation. And with the shop by payment technology that you referenced earlier, that's what brings it all together, right? Most consumers, most shoppers these days are looking at, what can I buy for my budget? Okay, that's the most important question. Yeah, you get those that are on a particular unit or whatever, but in most cases, it's, look, I either want to buy a boat or a motorcycle or a car or an RV, and I know what my budget is and what I can spend, and I want to know everything I can buy. Oh, and I need, I want an SUV, or I want this or that, I need bunk beds or this, whatever it is. You want to be able to say, okay, well, this is what you want. Now we're going to take those preferences, your what you want to spend a month, what type of vehicle, and we're going to take your credit under a soft pull. So we're not going to affect your credit score. And we're going to take all the inventory that matches that criteria, and all of the finance programs, lease programs, everything that would be available that matches your credit. And we're going to churn all that together and instantly spit out a list of inventory that meets that criteria. That is what really sets that customer up for success and a great experience at the dealership level.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can testify that it definitely works and definitely helps. So when we're offering your solutions to some of our dealers, they generally will have 2 or 3 questions. So I've already said this, and you've said it, just to reinforce it. So for sure, there is no impact on that customer's credit by doing this soft pull solution. And so then the next question is, well, just how accurate is it? And then some of the times they'll say, well, can we do this 100% of the time with 100% of the customers?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's take that, break down a little bit. So once we're able to do the soft pull, and we get it about 90% of the time now. We have a new platform we've created, called Grail, and we've added some additional UX, UI, where it makes it easier for the customer to enter their information, especially on a mobile device. It's mobile first, because that's where everybody, I look at a lot of our reporting, and weekends and evenings, 90% of all of that traffic and lead volume come from mobile. So, but back to the ease of use. With the new platform, we're able to get a better match, because once we get the customer's name and we have their location because of the phone, we can pretty much help them figure out and enter their address completion, auto completion, right? So that, because in order to get that soft pull, the name and the address have to match exactly. So that's actually giving us a better hit ratio on making sure we get that credit information. Yeah, and it does not affect their credit. It's a soft pull. We actually created that with TransUnion, I think you said back in 2010. It's 30 years now, and I have to do all this math, dates, and it's like, oh my gosh, and now we're in a new, it's like, whoa. But yes, the soft pull credit with a full file bureau. And that's really important, because as soon as you hit a hard pull, that can start a trigger lead to a competitor. So we want to eliminate our competitors knowing that we're working a deal. So that it actually enables you to work a deal in stealth mode, meaning that nobody else is going to know you're working that customer. And to give you an example, when you apply for a mortgage, all of a sudden, everybody knows you're looking for a mortgage, right? You get these letters and all this stuff. Well, that's a trigger lead. And that's a prime example of what we want to avoid when we're working a customer. So I think those two things are the keys around the way we do it. And versus there are different soft pull attributes out there where credit bureaus are offering certain things, but we're the only ones that are getting a full file under a credit, under a soft pull, which is, you have to have that information, especially, you know, RV Marine. You really got to dig into the bureau, not just a credit score. Right.
And is this still exclusively through TransUnion?
No, actually, what's interesting is we started it with TransUnion, then Experian came on board, and just recently Equifax is starting to play with us on that too. So I think now we have all three bureaus we can use.
Very nice, very nice. So is this strictly a web-based tool, or is there a way to apply this technology to a walk-in customer who has not done any real pre-shopping or anything?
Yeah, matter of fact, many of our dealers, especially after we do the training with them, we show them that it's not just on their website that they can use this technology. It's on the showroom floor. Especially, think about the RVs. Just use that for an example. Acres and acres and acres of RVs, right? Customer comes in and says, look, yeah, I'm looking to buy whatever, right? Okay, well, now we've got to figure out how are we going to get them around the lot to do a walkthrough on all these units. Whereas if we start it with the app, and a lot of our dealers will use iPads on the showroom floor and start working with the customer. So not only does it help us get them narrow down to the right unit, again, not showing them something that they can't afford to buy or that they're not interested in, but while they're there, quickly get them on the right unit. And it also, because we're not asking for a social and date of birth to get this information, and we're going to show them immediate results, they're more apt to give you their name and information, the name and address, phone number, email, and that sort of thing, while they're there on the lot. They're not going to be like so standoffish, because just for a little bit of information, you're going to give them and show them what they can buy and quickly get them on the lot or to that specific unit. So very important that can be used, in the showroom. Marketing is another aspect of that. We see dealers doing a lot of Facebook marketing with Shop by Payment. Again, it's about getting those customers. They may not even been thinking about buying a car, motorcycle, an RV, or a boat. Didn't cross their mind. But here comes an ad that shows up that says, hey, see what RVs you can buy for your particular budget. Okay, well, I'm kind of curious, right? I may not be in the market, but now all of a sudden, I start engaging with the Shop by Payment, and then find out that, wow, look what we could get for a buck. It's like, it's a wow factor, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. So one of the things that we've seen, especially this year, there were a lot of first-time boat buyers coming in. And boats are just priced differently than cars, but they have no experience in the boat pricing. So if someone says, I'd like to be making a payment of $200 a month, but as a practical matter, they can't get anything for less than $300 a month. How does your solution help show them what's really available, what they really can do.
Right. So if they want to be at 200 and there's nothing there, we'll show them the next lowest payment in the list of vehicles, and then they can scroll up and down. Same thing if they want to be at 300, and we start them showing them vehicles at 300, but then they can scroll up or down to see lower payment vehicles or higher payment vehicles. But it also sets the realistic expectation so that they're not wasting everybody's time, right? I mean, if really their budget is only 200 and that's where they want to be, and we don't have anything for them, then it's either money down, which we can show them that, or maybe they're just not a customer. I always hate to say they're not a customer, but here's the great thing: we at least have their information. Okay, so maybe they didn't find. Maybe we collected the lead, and it showed they were looking for a boat or whatever at 200, and they couldn't find something. At least we know when we call them that we know what they were looking for. We will have their credit, and maybe there is something we have or we can look at to try to change or to funnel that conversation with them, either money down or you might have to bump up a little bit, but again, you have something to talk about up front before you even call them, and you can create a plan, a strategy of how you're going to address that customer, that lead.
So basically what your solution lets people do is kind of put an arrow in the target at where they want to be, but they can see the rings around that so that they see what their options are. And if they can't get where they want to be, they can at least see what's available, up or down.
Yeah, but that's a great analogy, by the way. I'm gonna have to take that. That's a great analogy. It really is. There's my target, and here's the out rings that show me, what's close to that.
Right. Okay. So the overarching topic for today's webinar is just the overall FNI process, and even more broadly than that, because I know you have so much experience in dealerships and in the stores. What do you see as potentially some of the best practices, but even more significantly, what do you see as some of the worst practices, and what would you offer by way of corrective action for some of those?
Yeah, so that's a good question, because there's a lot of people out there saying a lot of things that are not necessarily accurate, especially when you start talking to dealers. So FNI Products, I know there's a lot of talk about, oh yeah, you've got to have the FNI Products listed because people are buying them. Well, they're actually right now they're not online, right? You still need that person that can work the deal and sell F&I products. That is the bottom line. You just throwing things on the website, hoping that somebody buys it, that's not the answer. It's not happening. So dealerships that have good F&I people is still relevant and necessary for conversion right now. It's absolutely, you've got to have somebody that's knowledgeable about the products that you're offering, that can explain it to the customer, and it's got to be somebody dedicated to that. It can't be just oh, hey, by the way, we have this. You know, with your company, you see this day in and day out. You've got to have that expertise to help that customer and guide them into the right product. Okay, and that's just the way we are right now. It's not something that's being automated. You still got to have the people to do it, for sure.
So that, from that perspective, and without naming names, some of these exclusively online ways that you can now buy cars and never talk to a salesperson, and they do list warranty products and other things like that. But based on this, the odds are they're going to be fairly unsuccessful at their penetration rates on those products.
Yeah, ask any dealership. What's the penetration rate on digital retailing FNI products? And it's basically almost nothing. And we have dealers that don't even want to show it. They are much more comfortable at, the minimal or the most you might want to do is just mention it, maybe have some information about it. And that's what we're experimenting with now. So that when you do have the conversation, at least the customer's heard about it. Maybe they've done some research and read about it. But really, it's a matter of talking to that customer on one-on-one, really. That's where we are right now.
No, absolutely. And I agree with that. And one of the things that we have taken up doing is making sure that every customer that we talk to ends up actually signing the optional protective product disclosure. It says, here's what I've seen, here's the ones I took, here's the ones I declined, and sign it so that process has been complete every time.
Yeah, important, very important, because you want to be consistent, right? You want to have a consistent experience across all of the customers that you talk to.
Absolutely, and from a dealer perspective, there's also a little self-protective element in there as well, yes. because that customer who didn't get offered a particular warranty and finds out from a friend of theirs that, gosh, this expensive repair could have been covered.
Yeah. When
they show up at that dealership again, that's bad news.
That's very bad, right? Yeah. Consistent all the time.
Yeah. Yep. Well, this has been really helpful and really useful. I think my experience is that, especially in the RV and the marine space, a lot of the dealers are pretty grossly uninformed about what's available from you in terms of the shop by payment and to get pre-qualified. And our experience is they're missing out on a great opportunity by not having it.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. I think you're right. It's been proven to be right, and the dealers that have it love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, hey, again, this has been very, very informative, very helpful. And again, I really appreciate your time, and thanks very much for sharing your expertise with us today.
I appreciate it very much, Merle. I'm going to get in the front of my RV here and get out.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Okay, Merle. Thank you.
So I think you'll agree there's a lot of great information there. So the takeaways from all of this. So that picture on the right is not the process. It's a random wander. A process walks you from start to finish with the goals that you've set as a target, and it makes measurement and management easy. So again, what is that F&I process? Let customers know that you have financing. Make the experience for those customers great. Make finance the focus. Always be talking payments. Highlight those protective products. And as Terry just indicated, those protective products are important, but they take expertise to present. Make sure that everybody gets the same great experience. And sell without risk. Don't cost a sale, but don't compromise your profit in advance. And then highlight the things that a customer might be missing, particularly when it comes to protective products. If you're doing all those things, you will see protective product penetration in excess of 65%. You will see F&I profit as a percent of amount financed exceeding 8%. You will see F&I profit as a percent of unit sales exceeding 4%. and you will see substantial additions to your bottom line. So now we get to the questions, and we've got just a couple of minutes for this. So there's one. I don't want my sales team looking like they don't know what they're doing. Is there another way to handle protective product pricing questions? And again, I think the important thing there is they don't know. Even if they would happen to know the retail price, and remember that retail prices, except in one state, are not fixed. They can be adjusted based on the entire package. So the salespeople cannot know de facto what the price is, and they certainly can't know what the payment is because the rate and term haven't been determined yet. The intention is not at all to make your sales team look like they don't know what they're doing. Rather, if you give them those great stories and say, hey, I just don't have those rate sheets. And frankly, if you've ever done any work on especially some of the engine warranty and accessory warranty products, it takes its own dashboard just to figure out what the cost is on those items. It's not something that you walk around with in your head. So your salespeople can look helpful and knowledgeable without having to be the expert on the way these things get priced. Here's another one. Cash buyers are different. Shouldn't they be treated differently? Well, let me throw out a statistic here. 80% of cash buyers are not paying with liquid cash. What's that mean? It means they're not just going into their checkbook and writing a check for $75,000. They're not pulling it out of their savings account. They're going into a home equity line. They're shopping with a different lender. They are cashing in, equities. But 80% are not paying with liquid cash. So having a conversation with every customer that says, well, if you're paying cash, clearly you must have great credit. Wouldn't you at least like to see what your options are so that maybe you can conserve some of that cash? And remember that when we finance, these are all simple interest loans. So after a year, if you decide that you really don't like having those payments, you can always pay it off then, but at least it'll give you an option. And it's incumbent on every dealership to make sure that every customer sees the protective products that are available. Not only are you missing out on profit potential, but you're setting yourself up for liability by not offering the same products to cash buyers as you are to finance buyers. So the answer is, until the conversations have been had, cash buyers do not get treated differently than anybody else. And that's going to ensure that they have a great experience and that you maximize profit. I guess that's all the questions for today. So some final thoughts. The goals set the directions, processes make them real. It's that process that gets you to your goals. And the FNI process is comprehensive, it's consistent, and it's complete. It's the process that makes your success happen. I really appreciate you joining us today. I'll see you in 2 weeks on November 4th. You can register now. The registration's available. We'll be talking about protective products, and we're fortunate next webinar to be having Paul Sheldon, who's a regional vice president at Protective Asset Protection, giving us some great topics, some great ideas, great thoughts on the protective products. So again, thanks very much for joining me. I hope you found this highly productive. I look forward to seeing you on the 4th. Thank you very much.